Not all finance needs to be complicated. Depending on the size and complexity of your project, you might be able to launch a simple and straightforward fundraising campaign to raise the money you need. This would be particularly well suited to individual installations on community buildings. If you want a solar array on your school or community centre, it really can be quite easy to raise £15,000 or £20,000 through a simple local donation scheme.
For larger and more complicated projects, it's likely that you will still need a proportion of your money to come from charitable funding of some sort. For something like a large wind turbine or a hydro power plant, you may need to raise significant equity up front. This will cover the expenditure that is at risk. For example, the costs of carrying out all the surveys you need to conduct to apply for planning permission. It may be that you pay for these and then are not granted planning permission, in which case all that money has been spent and there will be no return. So, grants and donations will be a useful way of covering this. If you're granted planning permission and have a project that is an attractive investment to a bank, they are unlikely to give you 100% funding. So, you may need to find up to 30% of the capital costs from elsewhere. If you've got planning permission, raising this proportion might be possible through a local share issue, which is explained elsewhere in this resource. But if you don't want to or can't offer shares, then charitable donations might be the way to go.
As much money is given away each year in grants from independent charitable trusts as through government funding programmes, so it's definitely something you should look into. Many trusts have strict guidelines about what types of causes and organisations they'll give to, so although there are thousands of trusts out there, only a small number may be suitable for you to apply to. Many trusts are run by volunteer trustees, so please don't send applications to trusts on spec. They have a great deal of work to do in their own time as it is. Make sure you've read the guidance and contacted them before submitting an application. This will save your time and theirs if your project is not of interest to them. There are several websites that you can use to search databases of charitable trusts and to assess their grants criteria. In particular, we recommend looking at trust funding, although an annual fee is needed, the Charities Aid Foundation and Funder Finder. Each local area has community foundations, which are worth contacting too. These are local bodies which distribute funds on behalf of charitable organisations. Contact your local CVS to find out more.
The Big Lottery Fund is definitely worth approaching. Their Awards for All scheme is open to all communities and offers grants of up to £10,000 with a reasonably straightforward application process. Other streams of lottery funding offer grants of several £100,000, but the applications tend to be more onerous, as do the reporting requirements if you get the money, and the guidance for each fund can be very narrow. The Big Lottery are very approachable though, and have a lot of very user-friendly guidance on their website, as well as a useful helpline. Other government bodies manage funds which have a relation to their field of influence. So, the Forestry Commission is a good place to start if you are interested in a biomass project. And if you live in a national park or area of outstanding natural beauty, make sure you contact their offices. They have an annual allowance for the Sustainable Development Fund, from which they can award quite substantial grants. Your local council may also have grant schemes, some of which they manage on behalf of others. For example, if your area has a lot of quarrying, there may be funds available for improving the local environment that come through the taxes levied on quarrying. Call your council and ask to speak to someone in the communities or funding team. The Landfill Tax Credit Scheme, which is essentially open to communities within 10 miles of a landfill site, can also give significant sums to capital projects and are definitely worth finding out about.
Most large corporations these days run corporate social responsibility programs, often referred to as CSR. Through these, charitable ventures can often access significant funding or professional support. National and international corporations tend to have whole departments devoted to this, and they run grant schemes with specific themes. A great place to look for energy projects are the big energy companies. Most of them have made some sort of commitment to supporting renewable energy projects, and it's not unusual to receive grants of more than 20,000. You will probably have to abide by certain conditions about publicising their involvement, and it's likely they'll want solo credit. So if you have a large grant from one energy company, they may make it a condition that you don't have a grant from another energy company as well. Non-energy corporations also have CSR funds, and many of them will support community activity. So spend some time researching supermarket and retail chains, telecommunications companies and the like. You might find a gold mine in there. As well as the big national companies, don't forget local ones too. It can be fantastic advertising for a company to get involved in a community project in the area where it delivers most of its services.
Cold, hard cash is not the only type of support you could use. You need to raise significant money to spend on professional consultancy fees, so why not think about whether any of that professional consultancy could be provided free or at a reduced rate. The first place you should look for this is within your own community. Are there ecologists, financiers, landscape architects, renewable energy engineers, legal professionals, PR experts, or professional planners out there? You could benefit from their help in carrying out pro bono work for you on the project. If you can't find anyone local, there is a very useful service called ProHelp. They offer a range of free consultancy services through a network of professionals who are willing to volunteer their time, skills and knowledge. There are also some government-funded advice services you could try, in particular Planning Aid, for advice on getting planning permission.
Venture philanthropy is a fairly recent phenomenon, arising in the USA in the 1990s. It's an interesting hybrid of charitable grant-making and hard-nosed finance. Venture philanthropy organisations provide the sort of support that you'd expect to get from a bank or other investor, but without such strict due diligence requirements. In essence, you could get the financial support in the form of an investment, and the venture philanthropy organisation will work with you to help build your own capacity to deliver the project. They'll also help on the business planning and financial case for the project. Ultimately, though, they will see their investment as a risk, and should your project not get planning permission, they'll not ask for their investment to be returned. Venture philanthropists are able to do this where banks can't, because the money they're investing has been donated to them. Or, to put it another way, a bank has to report back to its shareholders and investors, who would be most put out if the bank had lent their money to a high-risk project that had failed to deliver any profits. Venture philanthropists will still want to see clear business planning and sensible management, but will be open to the risk of the investment and answer to no one but themselves. The Charities Aid Foundation runs a venture philanthropy fund called VentureSum, which should be your first avenue of investigation. As you can see, there's more than one route to charitable fundraising. I hope this has given you a useful starting point. Thanks for watching.